A few years ago, I came up here to Dallas to do one of Ziglar's 2.0, Success 2.0 video webcasts. How many of you are members of Ziglar's Success 2.0 program? All right. Listen, one of the things I love to do is on Saturday morning, I love to just sit there and listen to, as I'm doing my planning, listen to some of the greatest presenters in the world that come to Success 2.0. That's a phenomenal vault. And so I came over here to do that video webcast, and there was a young lady by the name of Michelle Prince, featured Zig Ziglar speaker. And it was one of those things. We just really hit it off. She's just a great person, kindred spirit, and has become a great colleague. How many of you have heard Michelle, seen Michelle at one of our previous conferences, seen her speak? So what do you think, guys? Yeah. So we're going to bring up Michelle Prince right now. Give her a big Born to Win welcome, Michelle Prince.
This is a setup. I know.
Is she here? She opened the door for you? Is Michelle Prince here? Did she leave?
I know. I gotta go. Yes, but I promise you, I'll get you those slides by 6 o'clock tonight. I promise. I gotta go. I'm right in the middle of something.
You know you were on right now, right?
Uh-huh. Oh. Sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Do you need a minute?
I know. In fact, that's one of the things I was thinking about was in the presentation.
Do you need a minute?
Yeah. I'm okay.
You're okay. Oh, go ahead. Okay. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Michelle Prince.
I'll put them on hold.
Do you like my slacks?
Thank you.
No,
I'm good though. But go
You're
ahead.
good?
I'm
okay.
good. Thanks.
Okay.
So anyway, sorry guys. Just give me 1 second. And actually, I need to go anyway because I've got a lot going on, and my other line is ringing. So hold on 1 second. Sorry. Hey, Tyler, what's up? Hey, no, good. Actually, I'm kind of in the middle of something. Can I call you back? Okay, yeah, oh yeah, shoot, that's tonight? Okay, yeah, no problem, we'll be there. It starts at 6 and no problem at all. You did what? I'm making the cupcakes? You never told me I was making the cupcakes. Okay, fine, I'll get to it, I gotta go. Oh, and there's your brother. Hey, Austin, what's up? You missed the bus? I'm in Fort Worth, I can't come get you. Are you serious? Fine, let me call your dad, we'll get it worked out, don't worry. I gotta go. 1 second, guys, I'm so sorry. Family, sometimes this happens. Hey, Chris, hey, it's me. Hey, sweetie. Listen, okay, so Austin missed a bus. I'm at Born to Win, and in fact, I'm kind of in the middle of something, so I've got to go. But can you pick him up? And oh, and by the way, just so I have you, let me just tell you what's going on tonight. It's Friday night. I know it's date night, but we are. So I've got to get home. I've got to get this presentation out. I'll take care of that. I've got to go to the grocery store because, well, we need to eat. Tyler has that thing at 6 tonight, so I've got to get him over there. We'll do that, and then I got to come back. I've been in Born to Win all day, so I haven't had a chance to do my email, so I only have about 2,000 or so to check, but I'll get to that. And then we'll do date night. Oh, wait, but then I forgot. I also wanted to go see my friend Daisy because it's girls' night, and I haven't done that in a few months, and so I'm going to try to do that. And then, and work out. Yeah, I'm going to work out. I know, it's kind of funny. But no, I'm going to do that, and then I'll go home, and then I'll take a shower, and then we will do date night. Does that work? Okay. All right, bye-bye. I am so sorry. Oh, my God, I'm so embarrassed. But, okay, really. How many of you can kind of relate to that type of a day? Of course. Well, the funnier thing is that's not that off from my daily experience, to be honest with you. But obviously, we are talking about what? We are talking about being busy. All right, be honest. Who feels like on any given day you are totally overwhelmed and beyond busy? Raise your hand. Okay, look around. Look around. That's pretty much all of you. And the thing is, we are all busy. Now, I wish I could stand up here and tell you right now, I am going to tell you every single which way in the world to take away all of your responsibilities, all of the pressure, and everything that is keeping you busy. But that's not realistic. Because here's the thing, busy is always going to be there. It's always going to happen. You're always going to have something to do, somewhere to go, and somewhere to be. The point of the question isn't so much, are you busy? The real question is, are you just busy being busy? There is a difference. Let's think about this for a minute. I want you to just shout it out. What's the first thing that comes to mind? What is keeping you so busy? Work, grandchildren. Who else? Kids. Yeah, you could relate to my story up here a little. Spouses are keeping you busy. What else? This side of the room. Facebook. Oh, yeah, that little thing called social media. Emails, work, finances. I mean, everything. We could just keep going all day long. So we have good excuses to be busy. But do we all want to keep on being that way and feeling overwhelmed? Are you ready to change that and do a little something different? Okay, well, good. That's a good answer, actually. So a couple years ago, not long ago, actually, I was juggling a lot in my life. I was working full-time with a software company. I was traveling all over the country. I was in sales. 2 young kids. I have 2 boys. You just heard, Tyler and Austin, who at the time were in elementary school. I was actively involved in their school, in the church, in the neighborhood. Not to mention I had a husband, I had a life, and I was juggling a lot. And I had a lot of friends of mine who would kind of jokingly say to me sometimes, like, you know, gosh, I don't know how you do it. How do you do everything that you do? And if you've ever had that question asked of you, it's not exactly a compliment, you know. It's like, well, you know, I don't know. You just kind of do what you have to do. But the truth was, I just got really, really good at juggling. And for a long time, I thought that was actually a good thing. I thought that the more I juggled, how many of you have ever said this? I'm actually better when I'm busy. I said that, especially in college, right? Oh, I'm always better when I'm juggling so many things. And you know what? We are, because we have a deadline. We have a timeline. We're working towards something. But the reality is, when we're juggling too many things and we don't even know what balls are in the air, we lose focus. We lose sight of what is important. And that's what I want to talk about, because somewhere along the way, I'm no different than you, but somewhere along the way in the last few years, I figured out a thing or two about how to manage this crazy thing called life. You know, how to stop the insanity of being on that perpetual, you know, trap, mouse trap, or whatever it's called. But there is a way to do it. Now, I wasn't born with that much clarity, I'll tell you that. In fact, when I was born, yes, that's me. I'll give you a little bit of background about who I am, because I started just like all of you. And in fact, I started with a very wonderful family that, you know, lower middle class family in the suburbs of Chicago. Wonderful parents, brother, just a normal childhood. You know, nothing out of the ordinary, nothing crazy happened to us, but just a normal kid. One thing my mom always said was that people would stop and say, oh, look at her big eyes and those big curls. So it kind of looked like things were going to go my way in life a little bit. Starting at 2, that is. Well, let's fast forward a few years. So going on with my life, one thing that did stay were the curls. The cuteness, not so much. That is me when I was just about to go to high school. Literally, this is the summer before I went off to high school. Not exactly the beauty queen. But I show that picture because, quite frankly, this is one picture I want no one in the world to see. But to show you that, you know, my life kind of went to a place that I didn't really like who I was at around this stage. I had a very low self-esteem. I, for whatever reason, didn't feel good enough. I always felt like somebody was better than me. My brother was better than me. My girlfriends were prettier than me. I always compared myself. Anyone else besides me relate to that? Yeah, and so, you know, starting my high school years with that kind of image of myself and that kind of hair, you know, you can't help but, you know, have a little low self-esteem. And I have to tell you a funny story. My mom is actually in the audience today, so everybody say hi to Ellen. Wave your hand. And my husband too, Chris. But the funny story about this really is, I mean, a horrible memory for me, because I had the cute, you remember ladies back in the 80s, you know, the cute little bob haircuts that were really, really short, and my hair was kind of straight. Well, I told my mom I wanted to get a perm. And she's like, oh no, your hair's too short to get a perm. You can't do that. I'm like, oh no, I want a perm. That is what happens when you get a perm with too short a hair. So I remember those feelings of being like, oh my goodness, I'm just not ever going to measure up. I'm not good enough, that kind of thing. And so starting out with those cute little curls kind of, you know, eventually made its way to a place where I just didn't like myself too much. But let's fast forward even a few more years. How many of you ladies grew up in the 80s or were around in the 80s? Raise your hand. Okay. Men? How many of you men? Okay, good. Now, I'm hoping only the women can relate to the question I'm going to ask. What was the one thing us ladies really, what are we known for in the 80s? Big hair. Oh, yeah. And some of you know I liked my big hair in the 80s. A lot of you know I love the 80s. It's kind of, it was my decade. I've talked about that. So many of you have seen me talk before. But truly, it's funny. The curls continued throughout my life, and now I wear it straight. Wonder why. But the funny thing was, and it's really not funny, the reason I talk so much about the 80s and the reason why I even show you this picture is my entire life changed in the 80s. In fact, it was 1989, and it was 2 months before this picture was taken. It was August of 89, and I was just getting ready to go off to college. And I was so excited. It was the first time I was going to go away, but all my friends were going to other schools, so a little nervous, but ready to get out there and hit the world. And it was the weekend before I'm going away to college, and my mom and dad have a big gift for me. You know, the big college gift? And I'm so excited, and I can't wait to hear what it is, because it has to be a... Thank you. Well, it wasn't a car. Let's just put it that way. You know what it ended up being? Not a necklace. Way worse than a necklace. 2 tickets to a seminar. Okay, that's bad enough, right? Who wants to go to a seminar? But you know what kind of seminar it was? A motivational seminar. I'm 18 years old. Do you really think I want to be motivated? Come on. But the funnier thing was, actually it wasn't funny, it was that weekend I was going off to college. It literally was. I think they gave me the tickets on a Wednesday, and I think the seminar started on a Thursday, knowing I'd probably bolt if I knew I had more time. But my brother and I, they sent us to this seminar, and it was hosted in Dallas, Texas, and it was a seminar called Born to Win by this guy named Zig Ziglar. Who's heard of Zig Ziglar? Who has not in this room? You're going to be the odd one out on that one. Well, I had never heard of Zig Ziglar. I certainly did not want to spend 3 days with him. But my brother and I went to the seminar, and it truly was a pivotal point in my life. It literally was the first time in my life where I got what I was passionate about. You see, it was a room exactly like this. What's so interesting is round tables, people from all over the world, people from the UK, people from all over, coming to hear Mr. Ziglar and his speakers about how to have a better life, how to be born to win. And it was things like what we're all learning here, goal setting, planning. We talked a lot about self-esteem. We did DISC. We did all the things that we're doing here and more. But it was such a life-changing moment for me because for the first time in my 18 years, I got it. I got what it meant to have a goal, to focus on something, and to make it happen. And what's really, really ironic about that weekend is I discovered my passion, which at 18, I didn't even know what passion was. But I knew with every fiber of my being that some way, somehow, I wanted to be doing or be associated with people who were doing what Zig was doing that weekend. I wanted to motivate, I wanted to inspire, and I wanted to encourage people. But I was 18 years old. Not a whole lot you can do at 18. Although, at the end of the conference, I'm so fired up. You know how you guys are already feeling kind of like, excited and all. By the end of tomorrow, just wait, wow. But at the end of Born to Win, I was so fired up, so excited. And I got in line to shake Mr. Ziglar's hand and get his book signed. And I go up to him and I just say, oh, Mr. Ziglar, thank you so much. You did a great job. Like he needed to hear that from me. But honestly, I really sincerely meant it. I was like, this has been the best weekend of my life so far. And I just need you to know something. One of these days, mark my words, but one of these days, I'm going to work for you. You wait and see. I'm going to work for you. And Mr. Ziglar did what any sweet person would do, and he just kind of nodded his head, like thinking to himself, I've heard this a million times. But I really believed it. Have you ever had a feeling that is so strong and so intense, you can't explain it, but somehow, some way, something was about to happen? That is how I felt. That is exactly how I felt. So I leave the seminar, and I literally go from the seminar to Denton, Texas, to the University of North Texas, and I go to college, and I spend the next 4.5 years in college, and honestly, it was a great experience because I took what I learned in Born to Win and I applied it. Not many kids my age were really into that stuff, so it really put me at an advantage. But when I graduated, the economy was a lot like it is now. It was tough to get a job, and it was something that I knew what I wanted to do, but I couldn't do it because I didn't have the experience. But one thing I swore I would never, ever do, I would never be a salesperson. How many of you have ever thought that at one point in your life, like, I don't want to be a salesperson? Like Brian talked about yesterday. Why? Because we have this image of salespeople as being these sharks, and I guess I did. And I didn't want to be associated with that. But you know, when the economy's bad, there are only positions open that, you know, for salespeople. So I took a job, and I was selling copiers, and I was going around the towns within the North Dallas area, cold calling, literally door to door, selling copiers. And one particular day, cold calling in Carrollton, Texas, I walk up to an office park building, you know, lots of different buildings or offices, businesses in an office building. And I walk up and I look and it says the Zig Ziglar Corporation. And I literally about fell over because I knew I attended that seminar in Dallas, but I had no idea Zig was headquartered in Dallas, Texas. I mean, we didn't have Google back then to go check and see, you know. So I really had no idea. And as soon as I saw that sign, it immediately came back to me like, oh my gosh, that's right, I'm supposed to work here. So I run in there, and there's this beautiful woman behind the desk. Her name is Lou, and she was so gracious and so kind because I come in there like a schoolgirl, and I'm like, is this really where Zig Ziglar works? Oh my gosh, you know, is he here? You know, and so excited. And then I say, do you have any job openings? I will do anything to work here. You know that one thing I said I'd never do? Sales? Yeah, well, sales is all there was, but I didn't care. So I went home, I typed up, no exaggeration, my very first resume. It had 6 months of copier sales experience on it. I know, thank you. Not exactly impressive, and certainly not what gets you into the door at Zig Ziglar, but I sent in my resume, and I got a call from the VP of sales. I went in for an interview, and like they say, the rest is history. I got the job, and I was so excited because I was all of, 23-ish or so when this happened, 23, 24, and I had already met a huge goal of mine. Now, some people say, oh, that was luck, or you know, maybe you knew people or whatever. I know with all of my heart, the only reason I got that job was because I set my mind on it at 18. I didn't try to figure out the how, because frankly, I had no clue. But I knew what I wanted. I knew my definition of success. That's something I always have people ask themselves. What is your definition of success? Because if you don't know, how are you going to get there? We talk a lot about that in this conference. But I knew that's what I wanted to do. So I go to work there. I'm so excited every single day, whether I was selling a tape, a book, selling Mr. Ziglar to speak, or training for a corporation. I knew that somewhere, somehow, that was going to change someone's life because the content in it is life-changing. And that is such a thrill. You know, my passion being personal development, that to me was just the most amazing experience to work there. And then I did something kind of radical. About 3.5 years in, I quit. I quit a job that I loved, a job that I could have died for when I was 18, because I wanted to go make more money. And it was the dot-com boom. And all of you remember the dot-com boom? Remember the golden carrots of stock and more money and all that stuff? Well, I was getting lured away by a software company in IT. Knew nothing about technology, but I knew sales. So I took a job in sales because I really did want to climb that corporate ladder. I thought that my next stage in life would be, you know, more money, more this, corporate office, corner office. That's what I thought I wanted. And then I spent the next 12 years in software sales. And I realized really quick that is not what I wanted. You see, you can do something and be really, really successful at it and not love it and be miserable. Because when you're not really tuned in with your passion and you're not really doing what it is you love to do, it just doesn't make life very much fun. So I started to go through this whole process of really thinking, well, what would I do? What do I want to do? What is my heart's desire? You know, at this point, I had young kids. I was dropping them off at daycare every day. I was getting home late. I was making dinner, putting them to bed, paying the bills, doing this, day in and day out. And before I knew it, it was 12 years later. And I had a moment of clarity where I thought, you know what? This can't be all that God created me to be. Where's my passion? Where's that fire that I had when I was 18 and in my 20s? So I went through this whole process of asking myself, if I could do anything in the world, take off those blinders and really dream for a second, what would I do? And I kept going back to Zig. Not necessarily Zig himself, but what Zig stood for and what the company stood for. And that was truly to make a difference in the lives of other people. And I just kept coming back to that and coming back to that, but I couldn't figure out how to do it. You know why? I was so busy. Being busy, just doing what was in front of me and not spending the time focused on what I wanted to do. So I spent a lot more time focusing on it, and I'll share the rest of the story a little later. But the bottom line is, once I had that moment of clarity and knew that my life was really created for more than what I was using it for, all of a sudden, my life took action. I wrote a book. I started a business. I did so many of the things I had on my goal list, all because I stopped being busy and I focused on what was important. So, I have a warning for you, and my mom is in the room, so I better warn her first, but I'm about to talk about a 4-letter word, and, and you know what that letter word is. No, busy, right? So busy, we're busy. But what does busy really mean? Somebody just shout out, what does busy mean? What's the definition of busy? Overwhelmed. What else? Overworked, underpaid. Who else? Doing stuff but getting nothing done. So why are we so proud to be busy? That sure doesn't sound like a pretty good definition, right? Is that what we want to be spending our life doing? No. So what I want to talk about today is I want to give you a new perspective of what busy is and how you can make it work for your life and work to make your dreams come true instead of pulling you farther and farther away from your dreams. And that is this. Busy really stands for balance ultimately saves you. I believe this, I know this, that when you figure out what you are wanting in life, what the important things are. Remember what we did yesterday in the Wheel of Life? Remember the 7 categories of your life? When you are balanced and you know where you need to focus in your life, whether it's career, whether it's finances, maybe it's your relationships, maybe it's your health, but when you know what that is and you put a plan in place in order to achieve it, that's when life gets fun. So busy isn't about just juggling and being like a circus clown. Busy is about priorities and balancing those priorities. And that's what I really want to get into today. How many of you are hungry after lunch? No, you shouldn't be. But how does this look? This is a big plate of vegetables. We've got carrots, apples, cucumbers, you name it. Tom could probably appreciate this more than anyone in the room because actually I have to tell you a funny story. So Tom Ziegler inspired me to start juicing. And actually, it's a really great thing if anyone has ever done juicing. You basically get an entire day's worth of vegetables, you put it in a blender, and then you drink it. Voila, you're healthy. All right, let me ask you a question, though. If you ate all of that, how would you feel? Besides full. Would you feel healthy? What did you say? Oh, TMI, Tom, TMI. No, really, so when we fill our body with good things, how do we feel? We feel healthy. We feel energetic. We feel vibrant. We feel the way our bodies were designed to be, right? Our best self. Now, what if we filled our bodies with this every day? Now, it does look good and tempting, but let's be honest. If you ate every single meal, things like this, how would you feel? Sick, terrible, lethargic, tired. You'd have no energy, and it actually causes a lot more problems like weight gain and sometimes even more serious things like diabetes and other health risks. So we know that for our bodies, right? We're not going to just eat all junk food and expect to get by in life because that's not what fuels us. It's not what gives us what we need to be the person that we were designed to be. But what about your calendar? Let's think about that. What are you fueling your life with? What are you putting in your calendar? Because what you put into your calendar is ultimately going to determine where you end up in the day, right? So how are you fueling your life? How are you fueling your business? How are you fueling your relationships and everything else? When I do coaching with clients, one of the first questions I ask them is for me to see their calendar. And I always get those, I have it online, I don't know. Because most of us feel a little nervous about sharing our calendar. And the reason I do it is this. You can tell a lot about a person based on what's in their calendar. It's not based on what they say, but it's based on what they do. So if, let's say, health is so important to you, it's a priority for you, you are super, super focused on your health, but in your calendar you haven't worked out since 1992, that shows me that's not the case. The other side is, if your family is the most important thing to you, everything you do revolves around your family, but yet you're never home, does that really fuel your family life? So your calendar is so, so important, and I want you to be very conscious and aware of what are you putting in your calendar. And when I talk about being busy, and trust me when I say I'm busy too, I have a very full life, a very full schedule, travel schedule, and everything else. But in the end, I'm choosing what goes in my schedule. I'm choosing what I put in my calendar. And all of you, I would venture to guess, you either put it in your calendar, whatever it is that's keeping you so busy, or you approved having someone else put it in your calendar. So ultimately, in the end, you have chosen to be busy. And I know that's not exactly what people want to hear. We want a magic bullet to take away all this busyness, but the bottom line is this. We are making those choices to be busy. So just being aware of it and really knowing what it is that's keeping you busy is truly, truly critical to taking action on it. One of the things, talking about fueling your body, I'm going to give you a little example here. So let's just say, I'm a woman, so I'm going to use a woman example. Let's just say you're a working mom, okay? This is you. This is every single person in the room. You are all a bottle of water. Go with me on this. No, seriously though, this is you. And this is your day. Yes, I'm a UT fan. This is your day. So let's say you get up, you've got to make the kids breakfast, get them off to school. Maybe how many of you have a long commute to work? Well, that takes a little bit out of you because you're tired, you're fighting traffic. Then you get to the office. Maybe you have an employee that didn't show up that day. You're having to work for them. Maybe you have some emergency where a client is unhappy, and you've got to deal with that. Work ends. What do? We want to relax, right? We want to get home. But guess what? Who needs to go to the grocery store? Who needs to mow the lawn? Anybody have kids? Do we actually need to tend to them? Oh my gosh. Well, feeding our kids. Maybe your mom calls. Maybe there's somebody that an elderly person needs your attention, needs your care. By the end of the day, how many of you feel like this? After giving and giving and giving of yourself all day long, there's nothing left of us by the time we get home. And that's usually the time that is the most important, right? It's the time with our family. It's the time with our kids. It's the time with ourselves to have that downtime. But if this is all we're left with by the end of the day, how can you be a good parent? How can you be a good spouse? And how can you be a good boss or an employer or an employee when you are spent and you start it all over the next day? I want you to think about this analogy every time you drink a bottle of water. Seriously, we anchor our choices, or changes in life happen when we really have something to anchor it onto. So anchor it to a bottle of water and really be thinking about every time you're doing something, consciously think, is that filling me up or is that pouring me out? Now, I'm not saying responsibilities go away. They never, ever will. But you know how you fill your cup back up? It's by feeding your soul with the things that matter. Responsibilities, thank you. Responsibilities won't go away, but you just keep filling yourself back up. That bottle of water isn't going down so quick. If working out is important to you, but you maybe haven't made time for it in over a year because you're so busy at work, the employees need you, you got to be home by a certain time, you've got the kids, and we justify it. We justify it like, well, I'm so busy, I just can't get to it. I'll do it tomorrow. But what we're really doing is we're taking away from the people in our life that matter. Because when we don't have enough in us, how can we fill anyone else? So that bottle of water is an image of our life. But the good news is, again, we choose what goes into our calendar. We choose where we spend our time. So let's choose not to completely take everything out of us, fuel it with the good stuff, fuel it with the fruit, the vegetables, and fuel it with the things that matter to you. So is it okay if I give you guys some tips? It's all great to talk about theory, but who wants some really good tips that you can take home today or tonight, tomorrow, that you can start being more productive in your business, in your personal life? Who's interested? Awesome. Okay. I'm not going to say it's going to be easy, but trust me when I say these are doable and you can do these immediately. But what we want to focus on is it's not just productivity. What we want to do is tie productivity to focus. Okay? It's not just about time management. I get in conversations sometimes with time management gurus because although I do believe there are a lot of good things that come out of time management means nothing if you don't have a life after it all. It's life management. It's priority management. Then you're able to manage your time better. So let's talk about 5 ways that you can increase your productivity by focusing on, by using more focus. Step number 1 is this. Start early. How many of you are night owls? Raise your hand. Me too. Me too. I have never been a morning person. Never. Ask my mom. She can vouch for me. Never. And I never probably will. For whatever reason, my body clock just works best at night. I'm a night owl, and I am tired in the morning. And the last thing I want to do is get up early. But let me tell you what happens. If you truly want to make things happen in your life, with your business, your personal life, I promise you this one step will make the biggest impact. Just this one, and I have 4 more. But get up at least 1 hour earlier. That's it. 1 hour earlier. If you get up at 7 every morning, get up at 6. If you get up at 6, get up at 5. If you get up at 5, get up at 4. And I know, I didn't say you're going to like this, but just go with me on this. If you get up an hour earlier, what you're doing is you're allowing yourself the time that you will never find at any other point during the day. Getting up an hour earlier allows us to not only get our thoughts together, prioritize, but how many things do you get to the end of your day ever and you think, I couldn't fit it in today. There was no time. Whether that was taking a walk, whether that was making an important phone call, maybe it was paying the bills, whatever it was that you didn't get to, the morning time is a really great time to do it. I learned a lot from Tom Ziglar on this because he has a morning routine that I admire, that I've tried to put in place. And again, not being the morning person, some days it's easier than others. But getting up that hour early and then having that time to focus on the things that matter. For me, it's personal development. I have to feed my mind in order to be my best self. I really believe that we have a responsibility to step into our greatness. We were designed that way. People are relying on us to be at our absolute best. But if we don't have the time for our own self, meaning if we don't make Michelle time in the morning, or Bob time, or Sue time, whatever that is, if you don't make that for yourself, again, you're pouring this out before the day even started. So by taking an hour and really thinking and focusing on the things that matter, whether it's maybe taking a walk, going back to Tom's story, what he does is he will listen to a personal development CD while he's walking his dog, and sometimes drinking green tea, right? Or that happens before you walk. But what he's doing is he's hitting all the main elements, his mental, his spiritual, and his physical, and his health, right? Or physical. So whatever you do in the morning doesn't matter so much, but having that extra hour will make you more productive. And it will also give you that fuel. Sometimes, if let's say, like for my example, I have to get up and get my kids off to school every morning, irregardless of what's going on. So if I get up right when they have to be getting out the door, I'm going to feel hurried and rushed and frustrated and stressed. And what does that do for my kids? So having that extra hour will set you in a place where you're calm, you have perspective, and you're productive. How many of you would like to get more done by 9 a.m. than you could ever get done in a day? That's right. Howard is a genius at this, actually. I know he's a morning person. But when you master your mornings, you will accelerate your afternoons. So start early. And even if it takes a kid jumping on your head to get you up, do what you have to do. But make sure you do that. Just at least 1 hour. Give it a try for 1 week and see how you feel. All right. The next thing, and this seems pretty straightforward, but prioritize. So one of the things that we do, as I mentioned, our calendar is full. Our calendar is very, very full. But what we need to do is prioritize what we do in a day. How many of you, especially after leaving a conference like this, feel like you have a to-do list about 100 to-dos long? Okay, well, it's impossible to get to them all. So we really need to prioritize what is going to be the most important thing for that day. And then go to your calendar and schedule it. Truly scheduling is so critical. I know many of you in your business, you have schedulers, you're scheduling appointments. You could not survive in your business if you didn't schedule, your appointments. Well, the same goes with your life. So if it's important to you to work out, are you scheduling it? If it's important to you to have date night, are you scheduling it? And it's amazing, there's something mental about when we see our calendar and it's blocked off for a period of time, we tend to stick to our calendar. So if you go in there, prioritize, okay, what is the most important thing to me today? Schedule it, get it in there. Now I want you to all go back and think about your wheel of life that you did yesterday. If you have it, pull it out. Those 7 categories, those are the main categories of your life. So we have the career, the personal, the financial, the spiritual, the physical, what am I missing? Mental, and family. Thank you. So when you are prioritizing, whether you do this at night the day before, or maybe that's what you use your hour early in the morning to do, go through each one of those categories. And let's say you rated yourself maybe a 3 on your wheel yesterday on one particular category. Every day, think of what can I do in that category to bump my number up. I'm not saying you have to be a 10, but let's go from a 3 to a 6. So what could you do in that one day that could bump your number up in that one category? And then schedule it. Let's just say maybe spiritual is an area that had the lowest ranking for you. What could you do today on a work day that could maybe boost that up for you? Maybe it's reading the Bible in the morning. Maybe it's listening to a podcast. Maybe it's listening to something uplifting or reading a book that has some spiritual message in it. It doesn't have to be a lot, but if you schedule it and you get it in there as a priority, you're more likely to make it happen. So I want you to do that as an exercise tonight or tomorrow when you leave, really concentrating on where are you at on that wheel of life and what are you going to do to bump it up. Because it does us no good if we just look at where we are and don't make changes. So focusing on that, and it's really that simple, and then scheduling it. I will say sometimes I am not the best at keeping in touch because of my travel schedule, and there are times when I literally had to schedule, call my grandmother, or send a letter to this person, or check in on that person. And it sounds silly. It sounds like, these are the most important things in my life. I should be able to get them done. But shoulds don't matter. It's what you get done. So schedule it. If it's important to you, prioritize it. And if I ever get you and I get your calendar, I want to know when I open it up that what you say is most important to you is really reflected in that schedule. Sound good? Yeah. Awesome. Who's ready for the next one? Yeah. Let's do it. Okay. Well, this is a tough one to think about, but focus. Really, really focusing in on, again, what is important to you? What is it that you really want to make happen? I want you to think about how many of you are multitaskers? And how many of you think that's a good thing? Be honest, I'm not criticizing. Okay, multitasking is a good thing. I thought multitasking was a great thing for a really, really long time. In fact, I almost prided myself on it. Oh, I'm so good at multitasking. I can talk on the phone, type on the computer, drive, put my makeup on, all at the same time. And I've tried. No, really though, multitasking, we have this perception that it's actually a good thing, but it's really not. Because when you multitask, your mind is not in one place. It's constantly thinking of whatever else you're working on. So you're not giving your full attention to it. So I'm here to tell you, multitasking is probably one of the worst things you can do if you really want to be productive. And I know it sounds counterintuitive, because you think, well, if I'm working on 3 things at one time, then I'm going to get it done. But let's think about that. How many of you have ever had a proposal to put together, or something that you had to put together for business, and you're on your computer, and you're in the middle of putting it together, and an email pops up. The little Outlook thing goes bing, and how many of you look at it? We all do, right? What just happened? You immediately took your mind off what you were working on to check out that. You immediately changed your thought process, right? And if that was something urgent, what happened? You just immediately lost your train of thought, and now you're in reactive mode. I want you to start thinking of your life as you need to be a response to what is happening, meaning you respond to what is coming in, not reacting. We are all in this constant state of reaction and tending to someone else's urgencies. That's the truth. Our email inbox is a perfect example of that. An email inbox is nothing more than other people's urgencies being pressed on you for you to answer them right away. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't answer them, but what I'm saying is if you are 100% focused on one task and you turn off email, you turn off the phone, you turn off your text messaging, you will get that one thing done so much quicker than if you were going back and forth and trying to make everyone happy all at the same time. Set aside, again, it's scheduling. Set aside the times that you you respond to emails. Possibly create office hours for emails. I see that a lot more these days, where I respond to emails twice a day at mid-morning and mid-afternoon. The point is if you don't focus on the one task, chances are really good that not only will it not get done, but you'll get pulled in another direction, and you may even forget about it. There's a funny, it's kind of a joke to say this, but I think it's really true. How many of you have heard of entrepreneurial ADD? Right. Who many? Okay, Stephen. We're pointing Stephen out right there. Okay. No. We all have it to some degree, especially us business owners, because we're constantly thinking of new ideas like, oh, I want to implement this. Oh, I've got to put this marketing thing in place. Oh, my gosh, if we try this, oh, let's do this. And they're all great ideas, but what happens? Nothing gets implemented. We're all prone to it. So, again, awareness is all I'm asking for here for you to really focus in on where am I getting pulled away? What isn't getting done? And I guarantee part of it is because you're multitasking and you're not allowing yourself that scheduled focus time just to get one thing done, and that's all. So working on that entrepreneurial ADD is a very, very important thing. The next point, how many of you have an office? Like you have an office that you go to every day? Okay. How many of you home office? Okay, so about half and half. All right. What I mean by close the door. This is pretty obvious if you're in an office. But for wherever you're working, shut it off, meaning you are allowed your time to get something done, especially if you own the company. But go ahead and shut that door, even if it's just for 30 minutes one day. If you don't have an office, then what you want to do is you want to create an environment that lets other people know you are not available to them at any given moment. How many times has somebody come into your office and said, oh, hey, they're talking about something like, oh, while I'm here, you got just a second? And then it keeps going, and then before you know it, you're tending to somebody else's urgencies, and you're not getting what you needed to get done. So close your door if you have an office door, but if you have a cubicle, or if you're a home office, try some other things. Here's a really great way to do it. If you are working on something and you don't want somebody to interrupt you, put headphones on. I'm serious. Put headphones on, your iPod headphones. Even if you're not listening to anything, but maybe you're listening to soft music. But what that is sending is the message that you are busy, what you're working on is important, and if it's urgent, of course, they can interrupt you. But you want to set boundaries. You have to set boundaries. I say this in my belief talk all the time, that people will believe in you to the exact degree you believe in yourself. But I'm going to take that a different way. People will treat you exactly the way you allow them to. So you have to set boundaries. If you are constantly in a state of interruption and you can't get anything done, you can't get the marketing letters out, you can't make the cold calls, you can't put the systems in place because you're constantly being bombarded by other people, well, then you have to set those boundaries. This is actually a true story. So when I worked for Zig Ziglar, the organization when I was in my 20s, we had cubicles. Now, if you know anything about the Ziglars, you've probably learned by now, we're a really fun group of people. We're talkative. We enjoy each other. And at the time, the company, it was a big company. It was probably about 80 people, and we all just loved each other. So what do you do when you love each other? You want to talk. You want to, let's talk about our days. What did you do last night? Hey, how was your weekend? I knew more about the people that I worked with than any other company I've ever worked with because we valued friendships and relationships so much. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. But you know what happened? We didn't get as much work done as we probably could have. And I had a boss, his name was Tom Ziglar, and he was pretty strict on how many cold calls we had to make in a day. I think we had about 100 or so. And so I would stress out, like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to hit my numbers because I'd have some of these wonderful people come in my cube and just want to sit down and chat. And while I loved doing that, I also had work to do. So I actually got this idea either from Tom or his dad or somebody else at the office. But the best way to do that, especially in a cubicle environment, is set office hours and post it on your cube. And I did that. It was so funny. I'm like 22 years old, and I'm posting my office hours. But it worked because people knew that I am working from like 7:30 in the morning till maybe 10 o'clock in the morning, and then I'll take a 15-minute break. So when one of my buddies would come over, especially one of my best friends at the time, her name was Tina, she'd want to come over and chit-chat and talk, and I would literally I wouldn't even turn around when she came in if my office hours were in. And I know that sounds strange, and maybe not so nice, but you know what happened? I got my work done. And aren't we all in business so that we can have the freedom like Howard talks about? We can't have freedom if we're not making our numbers. We can't have freedom if we're not making sales. We can't have freedom if we're not bringing money in. So you have to focus on what needs to be focused on. Thank you. And in order to do that, you have to set boundaries. In the office, out of the office, you have to set the boundaries. So close the door, whatever that door is for you. Okay, so here is the 5th tip that I want to share with you. And this is a really good one. Get talking. Isn't that a funny picture? So what do I mean by that? How many of you have a cell phone that has text messaging? Okay. How many of you do email? How many of you have instant messenger? Not as a date. Blog? Facebook? Twitter? You get the idea? All of the above? Here's the thing. We live in an age where communication is everywhere. We can communicate with anyone, anywhere on the planet like that. The problem is we spend a lot of time going back and forth communicating with people that way. And I'm going to challenge you to try an experiment when you go back to the office next week. And I want you to try to do something that you haven't done in a long time. Pick up the phone. I'm serious. Think about this for just a moment. When you are telling maybe your employee how to do something, or if you you need to get something done in your business, or maybe you're sending a proposal to a client, what happens? You send an email, they email you back with a question, one question, then they send another email to answer that, and then it comes back. Sometimes hours go by, sometimes days, weeks. When honest to God, had you picked up the phone and had a 10-second conversation, you would have accomplished more than if you went back and forth. I challenge you to try this. I didn't buy it at first. I was really thinking like, there's no way. Because it's just so easy to hide behind a computer. It's so easy to send a text. I learned texting from my kids. You know, I have a 13-year-old and 9-year-old boys, and so obviously we live for text messaging because that's their world. That's where they live, or most kids do. And it's great because, you know, a text, you can do a really, really, really quick message. And I love that. Like if you just want to say, I'm in a meeting, or hey, how are you? You can send it really quick. But what happens with text? It's never just one. It's never just one. So you send a text message, then they text you back. And then while you're waiting for them to text you back, no matter what you're working on, you keep glancing at your phone. Have they texted me back yet? Have they texted me back yet? You know. When truly whatever you needed to say to them could have been said by picking up the phone. So I challenge you to try that. Now this is where boundaries are really important. I talk a lot about boundaries because boundaries is something that kind of goes along the lines of our negative beliefs. We sometimes believe we have to be everything to everyone to make everyone else happy. But you have to take care of yourself too. So you have to set boundaries of what you are willing or what you're going to allow in your life. So what happens when most people say, well, I can't pick up the phone. I'll be on the phone for like 2 hours. They'll just start chatting and chatting and chatting. How many have friends like that? You know not to call them because you know you'll be on the phone for like an hour? I do. But here's the way you do it. Whether it's personal, whether it's in business, here's the best way to do it. You pick up the phone. You know, hey, Tom, great to, how you doing? Great, great, great. Listen, I only have 2 minutes, but what I want to talk to you about is I need you to get Great, awesome, thanks so much. Goodbye. What I just did would have taken me probably about 5 minutes to type up in an email. It probably would have taken another email back for clarification. You see what I'm saying? It seems so counterproductive to pick up the phone because it seems like that would take longer. But in actuality, texting, emailing, and all that, we have become so focused on it that it actually makes us unproductive. Would anyone agree? Okay. How many of you have an inbox that you dread every morning? I wasn't really exaggerating that much when I said I have 2,000 emails to check today. I promise you, just from being here today, I have literally over 200 at least, not 2,000. But it's because, and those are things that quite honestly could have been handled. They could have left me a quick message. I could have just called them really quick. Things that could have just been off my plate instead of me spending hours responding to emails. So give that a try. I challenge you to do it. It really, really, truly is a powerful thing. And I want to share something that I do that is a little secret. It's not really a secret at all. It's a very, very simple way to prioritize your day. And it's called the power of 3. So the power of 3, when we are making our list of to-dos, and especially when you leave a conference, I love what Howard said. What was it about when you don't take action on something you're daydreaming? Or
vision without action is a daydream. Action without vision is a nightmare.
That is so perfect, because how many times we go to these conferences and we have all these great ideas, and then all of a sudden they're on this long to-do list, but we never get to them. Well, I want to show you a way that you can get to your priorities. You can get to the things that you need to do. Now, it does take discipline. It does take scheduling. But I promise you, and I challenge you, to give this a try this week and see how much more productive you are. It's called the power of 3. And what the power of 3 is no matter how many to-dos that you have in a given day or a given week, pick the top 3 that you're going to focus on. That's just 3, only 3. Even if you think, well, but I want to get more done, just focus on the 3. You can always add, but focus on 3. But those 3, you are not allowed to do anything else in your day until those 3 things are done. Meaning, if you have 3 things that you need to do, if you need to make 10 sales calls today, before you even check your email inbox, you're making those 10 sales calls. If you need to work out, if that's one of your 3, before you even have that cup of coffee, get out there and work out. It's a discipline. It's not easy. No one's going to tell you any of this is easy. It's discipline, but it's so simple when you really program your mind to just keep it simple. When we look at 100 to-dos in a given day, that's overwhelming. Isn't it overwhelming to think like, oh my gosh, I have so much to do? Those things don't go away. But when you break it all down to just 3 things, it makes it more manageable. We love accomplishment. How many of you are like me and you have this like fascination with like checking off a box? Or scratching it off like really, really big. I don't know what that is. There's something probably psychological there, but I love scratching off a to-do. It's just, it gives me adrenaline. So if we keep it down to 3, not only are we keeping it manageable, but we're also giving ourselves encouragement and that adrenaline of like, oh, I crossed it off, I accomplished something. How do you feel when you've accomplished something that has been on your list for forever? And it's not that you don't want to get it done. It's not that you don't know how to get it done. It's that something happens, you start your day, you have the best of intentions to get it done, and then what happens? You get pulled into all these different things, and before you know it, not only are you completely on empty at the end of the long day, but you didn't get it done. So what I'm suggesting is, while your bottle is still full, get it done right away, and then go on to the next, and then the next, and you will be shocked and amazed how much you get done. Because think about it, if you have 20 big goals that you want to get done in maybe over the next couple of months, if you did 3 a day, or even if we did 3 a week, think of how quickly you're going to be able to hit those goals and reach your numbers. It really is that simple. So focusing it down to the power of 3 will help you to do that. And what I actually do is, again, the satisfaction of crossing it off. I do have an online day timer. I do have an online task list, and I keep all of those in there. But what I also do is every morning is I take a little sheet of paper, a little sticky pad, or in some cases I have a big, rip-off sheet of paper, and I write my top 3, and I write down the power of 3. 1, 2, 3. That's all I do. And that's all, and I stick it on my computer, or I stick it wherever I'm working, and that's all I'm going to look at. And I want so bad to get on Facebook, and I want so bad to get on my inbox that I get it done. Because you program your mind that you're not going to do anything else. So try that out. It really will simplify things. It'll also make it a lot easier to get things accomplished when you have that adrenaline and that sense of accomplishment. Okay. All right, now let's get real here. How many of you, for real, raise your hand, are like me and you are a procrastinator? Okay, for those of you who are perfect, how many of you have actually ever thought about procrastinating? Of course, we're all procrastinators. It's so funny because when I do talks at different places, sometimes I'll ask that question, and I'm not kidding you. There are people that are like jumping out of their seats like, yes, that's me, I'm a procrastinator. We're so darn proud of it, but what good is it doing us? But it cracks me up because it's almost like a, yes, I'm a procrastinator. Like it's a good thing. But it's not. Because I want you to think about something. I want you to think about, what are you procrastinating on right now? Everybody get at least one thing in your mind. I'm not a betting person, but if I were, I would bet you are probably procrastinating on something that will make your business life or your personal life much, much better. True? But yet, we find the time to check Facebook. We find the time to deal with those annoying emails, to go through and delete all the spam. We find time for that. But we don't find time to do the things that we know deep down are going to make the biggest impact on our life. Why? Why is that? There's a lot of reasons why people procrastinate. I know all of us do it at one time or another, but what I want you to start to think about is, for you, why are you procrastinating? If you really want to overcome procrastination and overcome it for good and take action and really get the things done that you say you want to get done, you all are here for a reason. You are here to take action. You are here because of Howard and him coaching you, and you want someone to hold you accountable. So it doesn't feel good. It doesn't lift our spirits to know that what was so important to us, we're not even bothering getting to. So if we really want to take action and be a difference maker and do the things that we know are important, we have to get over this thing called procrastination. So I'm going to give you 4 tips, 4 things that I know that you can implement right away to completely get rid of your procrastination. And I said the first one already. The first one is really identify what's holding you back. Okay, if you all just thought about something important that you're procrastinating on, whether that's maybe losing the weight, maybe it's taking a trip with your family, maybe you're procrastinating on writing your book or putting in the systems that you're learning about. Whatever you're procrastinating on, why? Really be honest with yourself here. You don't have to tell me or anyone around you, but why are you procrastinating? In almost all cases, it boils down to another 4-letter word, and that's fear. We all have fears, and most of you are probably thinking, well, the biggest and probably the most common form of fear is the fear of failure. But guess what? It's not always about failure. Sometimes we have a fear of success. Now, I know that doesn't resonate like, no, I don't. I'm here. I want to be successful. But if you really think about then why is it? If you know what to do, you have the tools, you have the coaches, you have the resources, you have everything you need to be successful, but yet you're still not doing it, what is holding you back? And if it is the fear of rejection and the fear of failure, those are very, very common. But is it for you maybe the fear of success? What happens if I hit $1 million, if I become this level in my business? What happens if I write a book and it's successful? What happens if I have to quit my job because I'm doing so well in something else? Or what happens to my family? What will my spouse think if I do this? These are so subconscious, but I promise you that a lot of times what are the things we procrastinate on are always tied to fear, whether it be fear of success or fear of failure. So really for you, think about that right now. What is it? Why are you procrastinating? What is it really? Get down to the heart of it. Because money, time, and failure are the 3 biggest excuses you'll hear from everyone in the world of why they're not living their dreams. But yet people with no money, barely any time, and effort seem to make it happen. So why not you? So figure out what's holding you back. And then step number 2, Practice discipline and motivation. Now, kind of like the time management thing, nobody really wants to hear you have to work to make something happen. But what I mean by this, and it's pretty self-explanatory, but you do have to practice, you do have to be disciplined. You do have to have boundaries. You do have to have a plan. You do have to schedule your life. It's not time management, it's life management. You have to be proactive enough to take care of it. But when you are doing something that is within your purpose, within your passion, something that you love to do, passion will always pull you. You never have to push it. About 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago actually, when I finally made the decision to jump, if you will, and hope my wings grew on the way down, I decided to write a book. I had been thinking about writing a book for a really, really long time. And frankly, since I met Zig at 18, obviously I wanted and I dreamed of someday of, gosh, I would love to be one of the speakers. And I didn't dare tell anyone that because what if it didn't happen, right? But I knew I wanted to write a book. But I couldn't put my arms around how to do that. But as soon as I had the courage, as soon as I got over all that negative chatter, how many of you have ever had something that it's nothing else holding you back but what's up in here? Well, I had a lot of negative chatter, a lot of, who do you think you are? Who's going to listen to you? You're no Zig Ziglar. Going on in my head. And it kept me from doing something that I was so passionate about. I was procrastinating my life away based on some negative chatter. But when I finally decided to go after what was important to me, to go after those things that were in that wheel of life, your priorities, the things that just get you so fired up and so excited, when you go after those things, it's not hard work. I mean, think about somebody who loves to play the saxophone. Do you think all the hours of practice, learning the instruments, learning how to read music, do you think it's like drudgery? No, it's something you love to do, so it's kind of like you're willing to put in the effort. I wanted to write a book. So yes, I stayed up later than I would normally stay up. I got up earlier than I would normally get up. I worked hard. I was juggling a full-time family and a full-time job. I was traveling. I was busy. But because I made it all about my priorities and my passion, and I knew that if I didn't make myself happy, I couldn't make anyone else happy. So I made a commitment to really focus on what was important to me and focus on my priorities. So when I started writing my book, yes, it was a lot more work, but it didn't feel like work because it was my passion pulling me. Does that make sense? So when you're thinking about what it is you want to accomplish and you're thinking about the things you keep putting on that back burner, whether it's a book, whether it's taking a trip, whether it's building your business, it won't be hard work, but it will be work. And you have to be mentally prepared for that. But just know that when you're within your passion, it's not going to feel like drudgery. So practice it, put it together a plan, and schedule it. Schedule what is important. So the third step in really overcoming procrastination is dust off your dreams. What was it that lit you up when you were younger? It could have been 10 years ago. It could have been 20 years ago. 40 years ago. But think back to the time in your life before you had responsibilities, before you had rejection. What lit you up? What got you excited? Was it cooking? Was it teaching? Was it listening to people? Was it writing? Was it singing? Was it personal development, like me? But what lit you up at one stage in your life, if it was tied to your passion, likely still lights you up today. And as I was 18 years old, I had that dream of one day speaking at, a conference like Born to Win and sharing the message of encouragement and hope like Zig was doing. And I am so beyond, I'm going to make myself emotional, but so beyond, honored and blessed that I get to be here today speaking at Born to Win 23 years later. But that dream, thank you. I had that moment driving over here like, wow, this is something I always dreamed of. But my point in that is I am still as fired up as I was at 18 because it's part of my passion, it's part of my purpose, it's part of who I am. So when I say go back and dust off your dreams, whatever lit you up before is probably still in there. And if you really want to step into your greatness and be the best that you can be in your business and in your family and in your personal life, find what that is. Maybe you loved going stargazing. I had that epiphany last week. I realized, I love stargazing. I love to go out and look at the stars. When was the last time I did that? No matter where you are in life, find something that you love. Let it light you up. Because when you fill up yourself, you're filling up your bottle of water. And then you have a lot more to pour and a lot more to give in your business and in all the other areas that are important to you. So dust off those dreams. And finally, if you want to really overcome procrastination, start living now. That sounds cliche. That sounds easy. But here's the thing. We all have this idea in our minds that we're going to live forever. I don't know how that is, but we all know we're going to die someday, right? We've met other people who have died, haven't we? Chances are good we will too. But we think that we have all this time in the world and all those dreams, all those things that are on that back burner we're going to get to someday when I'm not so busy, when I have more money, when the kids are in school, when the kids are out of school, when the kids are married, when the grandkids are grown, when the grandkids are at school. You're going to constantly do that with your life if you don't just stop and think of what's important right now and do it, irregardless of what's going on in your life. Because you know what? You're always going to be busy. Always. That's one guarantee I can give you more than anything else. You will always be busy. You will always find something to fill up your time. So why not fill it up with the things that matter the most to you and live a life full of zest and vibrancy and excitement and joy and enthusiasm so that you can feel that but then pass that on to others as well. A lot of you who have heard me speak before, have read my first book, Winning in Life Now, know that I have a friend named Tom, and I wrote about this story, that a friend of mine, Tom, he's in his early 40s, he's about 42, 43, one of those guys that just is such a great guy. Healthy, works out, he runs, he eats right, he has a great family, he has 2 kids in elementary school, and a wonderful wife. Just one of those families, when you see him at church, you're kind of like, oh gosh, they have it perfect. Well, that was Tom. Well, Tom was heading to the doctor one day because he had an annual physical. He hadn't been in a couple years, but he's so healthy and so focused on his diet and everything that no big deal. But he goes to the doctor and he has this physical, and the doctor found something that was a little bit questionable. Actually found a lump that the doctor said, don't worry about it. It's nothing to worry about, but for safety, let me just go ahead and send it off to the lab just to be sure. I'm sure it's no problem. So they do. And the doctor says, look, if it's a problem, I'll give you a call. Well, Tom gets a call a couple days later and says, I need you to come in the office. And so his wife and he knew there was something going on, but nothing could have prepared him for what he heard that day. Not only did he tell him he had cancer, but it was stage 4, and he had 6 months to live. Now here's a guy in the prime of his life, 42 years old, healthy as a horse, taking care of his body, doing all the right things, and he's being told he has cancer and is going to die in 6 months? Well, obviously his family, his wife, and he were devastated, completely devastated. But then it kind of kicked into anger. First, Tom was all of a sudden like, wait a minute, I have been eating right. I've been doing all the right things. Are you kidding me? And then he kind of went into that next stage of sadness. Like, wow, what if they're right? What if something happens and I'm not going to be around to see my kids grow up, be with my wife? And then finally he got to the final stage in the grief process, and he realized that, no matter what he does in the next 6 months or however long he has, there's probably a good chance that he would die. So he made a decision, and he said, you know what, for as long as I have, I am going to do only the things that are important to me, and I'm going to spend time with only the people that are really, really important to me. And that's exactly what he did. And he spent more time with his family and his kids than he ever had. He loved spending time with them. He also loved to write. In fact, after the kids were born, he stopped writing completely. But when he was younger, he loved to write. He loved to express himself. So he decides, I'm going to get back to writing. And at night, when he put the kids to bed, he decided that he was going to write stories about things that had happened to the family through the years, stories of trips that they had taken when they were younger. And then he also wrote about things that he thought, well, in case I'm not here, things he might want to tell his kids when they grew older. Tom died 6.5 months after that doctor's appointment. And of course, his family was absolutely devastated, but his wife said something to me at the funeral that has completely changed my life, and it has really motivated me to do what I'm doing today. And that was, he said, about a week before he died, he said that he was grateful for the prognosis. Grateful. Because without it, he never would have experienced what it really felt like to live. That blew me away, because I thought, why do we need a prognosis of death to allow ourselves to do the things that matter? It just doesn't seem right. It doesn't make sense, but yet we do it every single day. We say something's important to us. We say our family's important. We say this one particular goal is important, but yet we don't do it. And maybe we won't have the same situation as Tom and have 6 months to live, but maybe we will. So whatever it is that you're holding on to, whatever it is that you're allowing yourself to believe it's okay to say you'll get to someday, it's not okay, because you don't know if that someday will come. And if any of you have ever lost someone in your family, who have ever been through a death like my husband and I have been through, you know how precious life is and how quick this life goes. So that, along with my belief that I'm here for a reason, here to live my purpose, is the reason that I took action. And that's the only reason why I'm on this stage today. Because I'm no different than you. I had goals just like you. In fact, I sat in a seminar like you, and I took in all of the same information. But I decided a couple years ago, I don't want to end up like Tom, and I don't want to have regrets, and I don't want to get to the end of my life and say, you know what, I didn't do what I knew I was either called to do or what I really, really wanted to do. And here's another way to think about it, because a lot of us don't want to think about maybe, oh gosh, we don't want to think about dying or a spouse dying or anything like that. What if you end up living to be 100? How horrible would it be to be 100 years old and know you didn't do a darn thing about your life? Almost better to die young, right? We took care of my husband's grandmother for a couple of years while she was in the nursing home, and we, really spent a lot of time with her, and she was in her late 80s, and there's nothing worse than sitting with a person that has a life full of regrets and saying, I always said I was going to do this, and I never did. I always said I was going to go to Paris. I never did. I don't want to live like that, and I know you don't either, because we're all in this room for a reason. I believe in that very, very, very sincerely. And we have a responsibility to be extraordinary for our employees, for our spouses, for our neighbors, for our community, for the world. We have the ability and the responsibility to be awesome and extraordinary. But we have to get off our keister to do it. Do we agree? So who is going to take action? Who is seriously going to leave here and take action on the goals and the things that you wrote down? Who's going to, you're in? You're in? Awesome. You can do this, honestly. It's not that hard. But Howard and I want to make it a lot easier for you, okay? So we want to give you something that you can take so that you can start implementing. Because here's the bottom line. It's not that you don't know what to do. You do know what you need to do. But sometimes we need that little bit of extra accountability to get it done. So I want to help you do that. And actually, Michelle, if you're in, or whoever, would you all mind passing out those forms? So one of the things that I put together is a productivity program. Because honestly, for me, if I didn't have somebody holding me accountable and telling me to schedule what I say I really want to make happen, I would not even be up here today. If I didn't schedule the time that I wrote my book every single day I did it for 3 weeks, I would not have my book done. So what I want to do is give you some tools that you can take immediately when you leave here that you can actually implement. And the first thing is, I have a seminar that I'm about to do. In fact, we're kicking it off in November, and it's a productivity seminar. So the things that I shared tonight or today, this is just 1/10 of the things that we're going to talk about in the program. So what it's really designed to do is to give you not only weekly accountability, right? If you know that you have to be on a call with me, you're going to probably take a little more action than if you could just let it go. So for 4 weeks, starting in November through December 4th, we're going to get on a call. It's going to be, I'm going to definitely do some teaching, but it's going to be a mastermind. It's going to be me helping you to be accountable, to answer your questions, to give you tips, and if we can all help each other give resources of how to make that happen, I want to facilitate an environment for that. So that's going to kick off, and that's going to be, I'm selling this seminar actually for $997 because I'm opening this up to lots of other people, but it's something that we can get going on. And the best part is, by Christmas, you can have most of those big to-dos completely off your list, and I'm going to want to help you do that over a 4-week period. So that's the first thing. The other thing is I've created a tracker. So I mentioned my power of 3, you know, the little sticky pad, and that works great. But as I was doing that, I was realizing, you know, not only do I just want to think of the 3 things I want to focus on, I want to have in front of me every single day all of my main goals. So all of those 7 things you did in the Wheel of Life, what are the things for that week you really want to focus on? So not only is it your top 3 that you can put on a sheet, it's one sheet of paper, you write those down, you put in the goals that you're working on for the week, and then there's some other pieces to keep you on pace to make sure you get it done. And this is something that you can print out every single day. We send it to you, you can use it, but it's essentially the same concept of the power of 3, but I've just done the work for you to create it. You just fill in the blanks. So that's the ultimate performance tracker, and I sell that for $97. And finally, my latest book. I am so very, very excited that I finished my latest book, Busy Being Busy, but Getting Nothing Done. The ultimate guide to stop juggling, overcome procrastination, and get more done in less time in business, leadership, and life. And you all are actually the very, very first crowd that's ever going to get your hands on this, because this is something that I just literally finished. It is completely done. It's with the editor, the final graphic designer. We are getting a few extra testimonials on the back cover, and then that's going straight out. But you all are going to get the sneak preview. So I'm going to send you virtually all of the book so you can start working on that, and it will be in your inbox by Monday morning. So you can have something to get you going. And there's all kinds of exercises and tips in there to help you on your way. But we're going to throw in some extra bonuses. So I am a big, big believer in having accountability. And for those of you in Inner Circle, you know how important this is. So you have to have that. So I'm going to just add an additional layer to your Inner Circle membership, is that we want to help you specifically on maybe the areas of personal development, writing a book, getting things done, goal setting, whatever your needs are. Every month we're going to have an additional call, plus a CD, newsletter, and a whole bunch of other bonuses that we send to you as part of my Winner Circle. And 2 months of that is valued at $194. And finally, and this is huge, and Howard said I was crazy for throwing this in, but I am so passionate about helping people get a book out. So passionate, because had I not taken action and written my book, I literally would not be here today. I would not be realizing my goal. So, knowing that process and knowing that it's not as hard as you think, and knowing what it will do to build your business, it's transformational. In fact, I have a lot of Bookbound alumni in the audience. Raise your hand if you've been to Bookbound. So we've got several of you, and I know Howard has been. It is something that we do a 2-day workshop where it's literally everything you need to know to write your book, to publish your book, to market your book, and use it to build your platform and build your brand. And because I know without a doubt, people will do business with you when they know you, like you, and trust you. A book is the #1 most overlooked marketing tool on the planet. Because when somebody reads about you in a book, they learn to like you, know you, and trust you. And whoever throws away a book? They'll throw away your business card, but they